Have to be taxed. And under the land and building taxes, because land was taxed separately from buildings, there was no problem of assessing buildings and taxing them. You didn't have to own land to be taxed under the land and building taxes, so that the taxing of squatters does not present as insurmountable problem. As long as there's a building on the land, you may talk about agricultural squatters, you may talk about squatters on vacant land, but understand that when you do that, if you're going to lay claim to private lands, then there is a Latin phrase that we learned in land surveying, nec vi, nec clam, nec precario. And therefore, if you're going to occupy lands without secret, which is what is nec clam means, then you've got to be there on the land in some form. So that if you're not there on the land, you don't qualify to be a squatter or an occupier of the land. And once you occupy land, whether you plant it or you build a house on it, once you're on it, you're entitled to be served a notice to pay tax. Thank you.
Are there any more questions?
I think, colleagues, we need to be clear in going forward, right? I think we have an opportunity here, as part of what somebody as Rick indicated, to change the status quo of how things have been done. And there's a lot of confusion, primarily because people don't want to pay tax. By nature, we avoid taxes. That's a culture. However, as part of the profession, we would have recognized where there have been a number of instances where we have been caught up, unfortunately, with issues of seeing these instances and have to turn a blind eye or do like if it doesn't exist. However, with the implementation of this proposed system, if it is done properly, it will provide, I believe, a form of regulatory framework which will eliminate or mitigate a number of issues as a consequence of things being done ad hocly. So, for instance, somebody mentioned, why do I have to supply all these documentation, and why do I have to do this and do X, Y, Z, be floor plan, building plan? And from my observation is to give a comprehensive amount of information that will be able to provide rigorous analyses. So if it is an owner willfully gives data, it provides transparency to the system. With that said, however, the system needs to be in such a form that where there are instances or maybe instances that the system could fall apart due to corrupt practices, those practices should not be allowed to fester. So I think it's important that we get the public as a whole to understand this and say, look, we have to pay a tax, but the tax needs to be transparent. We have to provide transparent and as accurate data as possible to get the resultant end result. In addition, there have been issues as valuers we are faced where we cannot get enough data to justify opinions, or there are large gaps between this value opinion and that value opinion. But with comprehensive data in the public domain, we can now be self-regulating better. Yeah, so we need to take advantage of this opportunity where data can be provided in a format, in a system that will provide transparency and accurate assessment of data. Yes? Councillor.
After all, I think I have a question. A question for both. A question that either or both Sunil or Ezric can answer. They've given us a lot of international examples of the quantum of taxes. Now, what of those taxes are purely property tax, and how much of it is service charges? For instance, my tax bill in London carries with it a basic tax, which for ease of expression I will call the property tax. And then there's an education charge over and above that. If I am in Los Angeles, it goes further. There is a fire services charge, there is a police charge, and there is, I think, a building charge. In Tampa, I think they have a building permit charge or something like that. And I am asking if those numbers that you gave are the basic property tax.